Hey boys, welcome back to the channel, and it's going to be the round 5 review slash preview of the NRL. And once again, we are unfortunately starting out with Thursday night footy, Broncos taking on the Seagulls. There's some good things in this team preview. A couple on the Seagulls sides. A couple of big omissions with Curtis Sironen out and George Tafua. Now, honestly, I don't think George Tafua is that big a loss. I love watching him play. He's just an absolute beast, but he's not a match winner. So he's not a huge loss for the Seagulls in my opinion, but Curtis Sironen, on the other hand, I think is a massive loss. I actually think he's probably been their best forward over the start of the year. It's probably touch and go. I mean, most of their forwards have been very good, but I just think Curtis Sironen, he just adds. He's very similar to like a Wade Graham type. He's just, he's got that skill. He played a lot of 5'8" in his younger days. He's a big body, good defensively, and he's got a good offload, good passing game. So the loss of Sironen is a big one. And then on the flip side, the Broncos do welcome back Kotoni Staggs, which is massive for them. Huge. It's honestly a massive in because Kotoni Staggs 1-on-1, extremely strong. He's not defensively, can probably be his one downfall, but I think compared to Jesse Arthur's, that edge was just an absolute nightmare. And the other side was just as bad, but Kotoni Staggs will definitely stiffen that up, and then also just have that X factor in attack. But some other big changes. So Benny Teo, my boy Benny Teo, is back in the NRL. I'm honestly so happy about Ben Teo being back. Now, I don't think Ben Teo is going to make the world of difference, but having that experienced player there, having that hard-nosed forward, just an absolute monster, dude. I'm very excited. I just cannot wait for the Broncos to get all their freaking forwards back. They're going to have just an incredible lineup in the forward pack. So, Ben Teo is a really good addition for bottom price value. It's a great handy pickup. The other big thing here is Corey Oates has moved into the back row. Now, it means Xavier Coates comes onto the wing, and I've got to be honest, Corey Oates has been pretty disappointing this year on the wing. I feel like he really hasn't played that well. He's gone downhill for sure, and it's hard to say, it's tough to say because Corey Oates hasn't had the chance in the first 2 weeks. The forwards just keep dropping the footy. Defensively, they've been terrible. So, the wingers just haven't had a chance to get into the game at all for the Broncos. But I think Corey Oates has been a little bit lackluster. And I always thought Corey Oates would make a pretty good back rower. Is this the time to do it? I don't know. I don't know, but it'll be interesting. If one thing, it'll be an interesting experiment. I do like Xavier Coates into the team. I like Herbie Farnworth on the other wing. I think their backline is actually pretty good apart from Darius Boyd. It's pretty solid. Anthony Milford, Brodie Croft still there. Matt Lodge comes into the starting side. Unfortunately, Jake Turpin is still out, and Joe Offengowie comes into the starting side as well. So Jamil Hopewade gets dropped, and Thomas Flegler is back to the bench. So I'm tipping the Manly Seagulls. Honestly, it's bad luck as well because I feel like the Seagulls are going to be fired up because of that heartbreaking loss last up against the Eels. If they'd won that game, maybe a little bit of not complacency, but they might not have been as fired up. So the fact that they lost it in that way, for a fact they're going to be fired up, and I think they're going to win. I actually think the Broncos are going to give it to the Seagulls. I'm thinking it's going to be a good game. I know everyone's writing off the Broncos, 13 plus to the Seagulls. I don't think so. Surely the Broncos turn it around. They just cannot play as badly as they have in the last 2 weeks. It just can't happen. It just cannot happen. Or I hope. I'm praying it doesn't. But I'm expecting some fight. I'm expecting a good game. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's gonna be a good game. But I think the Seagulls just have a bit too much strike. I think they got to. At the moment, their forward pack is more balanced and stronger overall. But, hopefully Lodge can get back to a bit of his form. I mean, when Lodge and Haas were fit and starting last year, it was a very good combo. So, I mean, hopefully Lodge can get back to his somewhat best, and that'll go a long way, because the front row battle is going to be a blockbuster. Couple of big boys in the middle there. But yeah, there's the Thursday night game. Next game, Warriors v the Cowboys. So, honestly, straight up, I will be tipping the Cowboys in this game. Peter Hiku, well, at the moment, he is in the extended... Where is he? He's in the extended bench on the reserves, so that he might come into the team. At the moment, like Hayes Perham and Pompey were okay. I mean, they're decent fill-ins, but honestly, if this is their starting lineup again, I feel like the Cowboys just have too much strike, and I don't think the Warriors have enough strike out wide with this back line. But Peter Hiku, he's a solid player. I think the big loss there is still Ken Mamalo, and obviously there are other big boys in the middle. But Ken Mamalo is such a huge loss, because on the back of Tuivasa-Sheck taking a run, beating a player, Ken Mamalo get a quick play the ball, make 20 meters, get a tackle bust. It would get their sets rolling, and without Mamalo, it just... They lose so much. They lose so much coming out from their end. It's a tough one, but I think Katoa will be good this game. He had a bit of not a shocker against the Panthers, but I think the Panthers really targeted him. I think the Cowboys' back row is not as good as the Panthers, so I think Katoa could have a bit of a field day against... who would he be against? What side of the field? It's either Mitchell Dunn or Cohen Hess, and I think both of those guys could have a bit of a rough time defending Nikorima and Katoa out on the edge. So I think Katoa's in for a big game. Tohu Harris has been very good, but other than that, I think Parsi is on the extended. Papa Lee is also in the reserves, which is a bit strange. Ignatius Parsi is in the reserves, so this team could definitely change. I'd be surprised if Papali'i didn't come into the team somewhere. Bit of a strange one. I don't know. Stephen Kearney makes some weird team decisions. I mean, it's probably a little rough because they've had a bit of a rough time with it, but yeah. And then we look at the Cowboys. Obviously, the flyer here in for Doe comes in for Ben Hampton, which is a little bit... Now, don't get me wrong. I actually think for Doe should have probably started the year. This kid is an absolute freak, and I think just get him the experience. But I actually think Ben Hampton was playing pretty good. I was surprised that he got dropped for Doe in this round, but... it's probably a good time to bring in the flyer, and I think it does add like a little bit of spark. I mean, Ben Hampton is pretty quick as well. He's definitely one of the quickest going around, but I do like the back line for the Cowboys. They were terrible against the Sharks. I talked about it in the review, but that game was an absolute stinker. The Sharks weren't even that much better, but the Cowboys were shocking. Just, the drop balls... Yeah, the attack just wasn't silky. Valentine Holmes didn't have a great game. Drinkwater wasn't at his best. It was just a bit of a sloppy game. So, like I said at the start, I'm tipping the Cowboys to win. Honestly, pretty comfortably. I think they're going to turn it on here. Frankie Molo is still in the starting prop area, which I love. He's just, dude, he is such an underrated player. He is an absolute beast. But the other big change here, Reece Robson gets a starting role over Granville, who is completely out of the side, and I am very happy about that. I've said it a lot. I'm I haven't been a fan of Granville for a long time. His service from dummy half is just not up to NRL standard. Reece Robson is a quality dummy half, and I think he should play as many minutes as he can. So I love the play here to bring Robson into the starting lineup, and if he can get through 80 minutes, play him for 80 minutes. But they do have the young Reuben Cotter, who is also a very good dummy half coming through, but he's on the bench to maybe spell Robson for a little bit. So I like that decision. Cohen Hess does come back in after missing last week. Yeah, he missed last week. And I mean, Cohen Hess, for all he's maligned. He's very maligned. But he's actually started the year pretty well. So I think it's a pretty big inclusion to have Cohen Hess in the side. He's actually looked pretty good the last, the opening rounds. Obviously, there was a long break between the first two, but round 3 he looked very good. And then Gavin Cooper's still on the bench, young Tom Gilbert and Shane Wright. Tamalolo is on the extended bench, so I don't know. I mean, who knows? If Tamalolo doesn't play, it's a huge loss again, and it does bring the Warriors back within a much better chance. If Tamalolo plays, then it just bolsters the Cowboys just enormously. You cannot replace Jason Tamalolo. And also John Asiata is out injured, which is a pretty big loss as well. So, yeah, they lose a bit of X factor in the forwards. But, yeah, I mean, hopefully the Cowboys' sake, Tamalolo can recover. I think it's not like an injury that could get worse. I think it's just pain. Like, if it's too painful, he won't play. But I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in. The next game here, a game that's tipped to be potentially the game of the round, is the Eels taking on the Panthers, and I got to agree, I think it's going to be a good one. Obviously, the big inclusion is Nathan Cleary comes in. Dylan Edwards is apparently on the extended bench, which I think that's been really lacking for the Panthers, the fullback. Caleb Aikens, he's a solid player. Caleb Aikens, very good fill-in. He's sort of like I sort of look at him like a Brendan Elliott type, guys like that who can come in and replace someone and do a good job. He's busy, he takes a lot of runs, but he really doesn't. He just doesn't threaten. I don't look at Caleb Aikens as a guy that's going to set up tries or really score tries. He's just a guy that makes a lot of runs, does the tough stuff, and I mean that's if he does the tough stuff, he's doing a great job, but. Missing Dylan Edwards, I think, is a huge loss still. I don't know if he's potentially gonna come back in. I would imagine not, because he's on obviously jersey 21 there, but potentially. Who knows? But yeah, if he comes back in, it would be a huge boost for the Panthers, along with Nathan Cleary coming back in. And the other one here, Jerome Luai, keeps the 5'8" spot. I actually think that's better for the Panthers. In terms of player skill, I definitely think Matt Burton is a better player than Jerome Luai in the halves. But I think just for the balance of the team, I think Cleary and Luai are just a better combination, because you want Cleary to just handle the ball as much as possible, and then Luai to play on the back of it and play off the cuff type stuff. So having Burton at 5'8", I think just sort of I don't think they complement each other as much as Luai and Cleary. Also, the other good news here for the Panthers is Api Coruscant doesn't have to contend with Mitch Kenny taking minutes off him, because every time I've watched the Panthers, every time Coruscant goes off the field, they look so much worse. And it's nothing against Mitch Kenny, but Coruscant was just such a threat out of dummy half. As soon as he goes off, it's just, there's so much more. They're way easier to predict. Coruscant just adds so much attack variation to their lineup that, if he plays near on 80 minutes, they just look a far better team. Matt Burton is on the bench, so I wouldn't be surprised if potentially Coruscant gets a little spell. Luai goes into hooker and Burton goes into halves, or maybe Burton can play a little bit of dummy half, potentially. I guess it depends how it depends how the game goes. You know, if the Eels get all the ball early, and Coruscant has to do like all the defense, maybe they do have to spell him, but you know, who knows. But the rest of the team, you know, with Cleary back in, it looks like a good team. I'm actually, this is a toss-up because obviously the Eels have been in great form, but they're due for a win. I'm always about that. Teams that haven't won for ages, they're always due for a win, and teams that are undefeated, they're always due for a loss. And I feel like the Eels, they should have lost last game, and I feel like the Panthers, I don't know. I feel like I don't know the stats, but I feel like the Panthers do well against the Eels. I might be mistaken, but I don't know. I feel like the Panthers are. I feel like they're a good shout here, but I mean the Eels are full strength. They actually welcome back Nathan Brown, who is a huge plus. The bench of all forwards actually Stone, Niokore, Evans, and Terapo. So. Yeah, I don't know. This is a real tough one. Yeah. You know what? Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna tip the Panthers. I'm gonna tip the Panthers in a tight one. I think it's gonna be a good game. I think it's gonna be a high scoring game, and you know, it's sort of. I hate to say, but I think it sort of does come down to who gets the benefits of those 6-to-go calls, because it's sort of the way these games are gone. The team that sort of get early 6-to-go calls in the game tend to go on with it. So I think that's what's going to decide it. But I think the Panthers look very, very strong with their team layout. I like it a lot. So I'm going to tip the Panthers. I didn't tip the Eels last week and it screwed me, so we'll see how we go. But now we move on. Rabbitohs v Titans. Straight away, I'm tipping the Rabbits, and I think that the Rabbits are going to win comfortably. I obviously didn't tip the Titans last week, and they upset the Tigers. And looking at the Titans, honestly, Tonomapea was sensational. Playing his first game back in a couple of years, he was great. You know, he was tough, defensively strong. He put, you know, his kick chase was great. You know, he looked good in attack. He's just a professional footy player, and it goes to show. He came from the Storm a couple of years away, and he still got it. He looked, I mean, when you saw him, he looked a little bit unfit, so to speak. He looked a little bit pudgy from his Melbourne Storm days. But you know, he put in 100%. He looked very solid. So I think Tonomapea is a great addition. Anthony Don played very well. Kelly was good. Copley were good. Philip Sammy. You know, their backline has some talent for sure. And Ash Taylor had his best game for a while for sure. And then the forward pack, it's, you know, I don't like their forward pack. I'm not going to lie. Bryce Cartwright actually didn't play too badly, but I still think having Cartwright as your starting back rower, it's just not a good sign. Aaron Clark looked okay. Again, he was decent, young Aaron Clark. I don't think he was anything too special, but he did his job and he looked okay. He sort of looked very similar to bloody who was the Bulldogs dummy half? Oh my god, Michael Leisha. He looked very similar to Michael Leisha for some reason. Probably not a great comparison for him, but I mean, Fodawaker and Jai Arrow, obviously the cornerstones here, but yeah, I can't see the Titans winning. Their forward pack is just way too weak, in my opinion. And then on the flip side, you've got Cook starting to look in decent form. Obviously, Cameron Murray moves back into lock, which he did last game as well. But that adds it just boosts Damien Cook a lot. And I do like Liam Knight being on the bench. Mago is a very good player. Tomamone is he looks like a bit of a beast as well. So I like their forward pack. I think it adds a lot more punch than the Titans bench. Like I don't know. I'm looking at this bench and I'm like, they're going to bring Jolliffe, Hipgrave, and then Peachy on. I mean, it's not really going to add much stark to their defense. But yeah. And then the big inclusion, obviously, is Cody Walker. I mean, it just makes their attack so much better because obviously without Walker, they're pretty one-dimensional. You know, it's pretty much around the ruck with Damien Cook and Murray and then Mitchell out the back if he's on form. But with Walker, it just brings the left side of attack in. James Roberts is back. And Mitchell looked very good last game against the Storm, and I feel like with Cody Walker back, he could really bring Mitchell into the contest. I think Mitchell is going to run riot over the Titans this week. So, yeah, definitely tipping the Rabbits in a bigger win against the Titans. Then we move on to the Knights v the Storm. So, you wouldn't think this would be a tough one. Straight away, I'm going to tip the Melbourne Storm because, you know, when you're tipping, if you tip the Storm to win pretty much every week, then you're going to go pretty well. But I'm not confident because the Knights look so good against the Raiders. They made the Raiders look terrible last week, and the toughness to draw against the Panthers without their star players was just incredible. Kalen Ponga was just out of this world against the Raiders. I actually thought Mitchell Pearce was just okay. He didn't do anything bad, Pearce, but I didn't think he was that good against the Raiders. His kicking game was good, but he didn't really do too much. So I mean that just means there's room for improvement with the Knights in attack, with Pearcey getting better. Bradman Best is a monster. He's very, very strong. Edric Lee is looking good. Heimel Hunt is looking good. I still don't really know why Inari Tuala has got the other starting centre spot. I really don't rate Tuala at all. I don't think he's very good. Not to be rude, but I just don't think he's NRL standard, in all honesty. I'm surprised he's got the nod over Shibazaki, who I thought was very good in the first few rounds. Kurt Mann is named. I really don't think he's going to play because that ankle injury looked pretty bad. Obviously, it's obviously nothing major, but I find it hard to believe Kurt Mann is going to play, and that just leaves who is it? Phoenix Crossland, potentially. Well, actually, I think Phoenix Crossland will definitely come in if Kurt Mann is out. And it's funny because I think if Crossland didn't, he hurt his hip or something like that. I can't remember, but Crossland hurt he had an injury in like preseason. Otherwise, I think Crossland was going to get the 5'8" spot for round 1 if he wasn't injured. So it wouldn't be a terrible replacement. And even they got Tautau Moga in the reserves here. I think Moga's coming back from injury as well, so maybe that's why. But I don't know why. I don't know why Tuala is still getting the starting spot, but I don't know, dude. They're going pretty well, so I can't really fault them too much. But yeah, I like the team. I like the forward pack. I think McCulloch was very good in his first outing. Played 80 minutes, tackled his heart out like he does. Took a few nice runs. Just solid. Nothing incredible, but just solid overall. The Saifidi brothers have been excellent. Herman Essie is starting to get into some form. But I just can't see the Storm losing. Their team is just so good. And obviously, Christian Welsh, again, has more match fitness. He's looking pretty good. Their bench is incredible with Brandon Smith. Farsama Ali was so good last game. He was a one-man wrecking machine when he came on, dude. Nelson Asafa Solomona is back as well. I mean, those three guys on the bench, good lord, that is quite the X Factor bench. And even Max King has looked pretty good. So, yeah, I just, with Cameron Smith, Cameron Munster, and Pappenhausen, I just think they got a little bit too much, and I think their defense is going to be a lot better than the Raiders were. I know it's funny because the Raiders flogged the Storm 2 weeks ago. That's the crazy thing about rugby league, dude. Every week it's like things are different, but I feel like the Storm are going to win. No, I don't think they're definitely not going to blow the Knights out. I just don't see that happening. The Knights have been so good, but I see the Storm winning. And even last week they won with a player down. I mean, Adokar was a passenger for the whole game. I think Jerome Hughes is a pretty big loss, but honestly, Riley Jacks just to control the game and let Munster just run the footy. It's not a bad replacement. So yeah, tipping the Storm in that one. Then we have West Tigers v the Raiders. So boy, there's a lot of changes here. So Tommy Talau comes in for Robert Jennings. Benji Marshall is dropped for Josh Reynolds, which is very strange to me, and a lot of people are very miffed by it. It's a weird dropping. Who else is there? Zane Musgrove comes into the starting side. Chris Lawrence is back into the starting side. Russell Packer is back. Michael Cheekham is back on the bench. A lot of changes, dude. Billy Walters is out. So, yeah, Michael Maguire obviously very unhappy with the loss to the Titans. So, he's rung the changes. Again, straight off the bat here, I'm tipping the Raiders. The Raiders were awful. The Raiders were awful against the Knights. The Knights were very, very good, but the Raiders just didn't show any sort of intensity. They got rolled from the kickoff. The Knights forward pack just dominated the Raiders, and for the whole game, the Raiders just didn't look in the contest. So for a fact the Raiders are going to come out and fire up. So I think the Raiders are specialties in this game. I think the Tigers will be better. Again, after losing to the Titans, I think they're going to be fired up as well. But I think the Raiders have just a bit too much to play for, and yeah, I think they're gonna win and win pretty comfortably. I don't think there's any changes here for the Raiders. Yeah, pretty much 1-17. Rapana's still on the bench, which is a little bit. It's weird. Did he even play Rapana? I think Rapana came on in the last 10 minutes. So I don't know. It's a bit of a weird one having Rapana on the bench. It seems like a bit of a waste, but I like, honestly, the one guy. I think Curtis Scott is the one guy that should probably get replaced. I think Curtis Scott has been pretty ordinary. And I would put Nick Kotrick to the centre and Rapana to the wing if they were going to bring Rapana back. And personally, I think that would probably make their team better overall, because I think Rapana is a better player than Curtis Scott. And I think Bailey Simonson is overall better than Curtis Scott as well. Probably a lot of people will disagree with me about that one. I think a lot of people like Curtis Scott, but I don't think he's that good. I think he's a bit overrated. So I would put Kotrick to the center and Rapana, but that's just me. I know, what do I know, basically? But yeah, I think the Raiders are going to win and win pretty comfortably in this one. Then we move on to the Bulldogs v the Roosters. I mean, straight away, the Roosters are going to win this, and they're going to win it comfortably. James Tedesco is back. Don't get me wrong, the Bulldogs, I talked about this in the review, but like I kept saying, Will Hopewade to fullback makes the Bulldogs look so much better. Zelezniak played incredible on the wing. Jake Averillo looks very good in the centres. I do like their backline quite a bit now. Kieran Foran adds so much to the team. Yeah, I think their backline is actually pretty darn good. The forward pack played really well last week again, but it was against the Dragons, who have shown not much. And I think it's one of those ones where it's sort of like the Warriors, right? The Warriors looked real good against the Dragons, and then they got pumped by the Panthers, and the Panthers weren't that good against the Knights. And I think it could be the case here as well. the Roosters just have too much across the board. Their team is just too balanced and too good. They just and Tedesco comes back in. So I mean, the Roosters are going to win and win well. I don't see what could happen to really. I mean, the Roosters would have to have a very terrible night, and the fact it makes it even easier because of the fact the Roosters lost their first 2 games. They don't have to necessarily win all of the games remaining, but, they have to win a majority. So games against the Bulldogs and other lower placed teams, they can't afford to lose these games, really, after losing those first 2 games of the round. So the Roosters, they've got everything to play for still. So, yeah, definitely tipping the Roosters. They're going to win, basically. They're going to win. And then we have the Dragons v. the Sharks. I don't think it's going to be as bad as the Dragons-Bulldogs game. This one's, honestly, it's a bit of a tough one. I'm going to say I'm tipping the Sharks, but it's sort of like like I was saying before, surely the Dragons are going to find a little bit of form, but honestly, with all the turmoil and, the rumors coming out, the players are divided and stuff like that, I mean, it's not looking good. Like, it seems like there's more issues going on than what it seems, and it makes sense because the team on paper is still very strong. It's not a team that shouldn't be scoring any points and leaking heaps of points. It's a weird one. So, yeah, the Sharks, I'm tipping the Sharks. Again, it's like, surely the Dragons are going to put up a better effort than they did in the last couple of rounds, but I keep thinking that, and they keep disappointing me, so I honestly don't know. And then also, the Sharks welcome back Andrew Fafita, which is obviously a pretty big plus. He's still probably playing injured, but it's still a huge boost for them. A huge loss, though, is Ronaldo Mulatalo being out injured. Hiroti comes in, who is a pretty decent player. I think he played a few games for the Rabbitohs last year or the year before. He's a decent player. Not a bad fill-in, but also... yeah, Chad Townsend is back, so that shifts Matty Moylan to fullback, and William Kennedy is gone, which, Kennedy, he's another good... He's honestly a solid player, and I think he did a really good job, but I think Moylan at fullback is... It adds a lot of attack to the game. Moylan is a rocks and diamonds player, especially at fullback. There's games I've seen where Moylan... one ball, like the first kick of the game goes up and Moylan drops it, and Moylan is in for a rough night. But if he catches that first bomb, if he catches the first bomb, he's probably in for a good one. So it comes down to that first high kick. If Moylan puts down a sitter, he's in for a rough one. But Moylan just adds so much spark to their attack. Sean Johnson still doesn't look that good, but he's got the potential. He's still got all the potential in the world. Obviously, injuries have sort of brought him back, but I still like the Sharks overall. Their bench is still very strong. I think Hemlin Ueli, Toby Rudolph moves back there, and Scott Sorensen, and then Connor Tracy, the little live wire, can do some good work. So yeah, I'm tipping the Sharkies in this one to win. So yeah, that's the is that the last game? I think that's the last game, isn't it? Yeah, Dragon Sharks. So that is the round 5 review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you guys are tipping. Make sure to like and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.